Welcome to episode 3 of the Dad's Lifting Dads podcast. Nick Senam.
Hey man, how are we?
I'm good, how are you?
Fantastic. Great start to the podcast. Fantastic, thank you.
Excellent. Look, I just wanted to take the floor and publicly thank you. So last month we ran our first Dad's Lifting Dads night, and for me that was a 4-year vision in the making, and pretty close to my heart. So I just wanted to thank you, because without you that would never have come to fruition. That vision and that dream of mine and being able to share my experiences would never have come to fruition. So thank you.
That's alright, I appreciate that. It's all you as well. Like, I just facilitated the space, and I definitely back what you've got going on here. So, you know, it just two stars collided, I guess, in a way, and we've made it happen. And look, there's more to come, of course.
Let's kick it off. Let's take everyone through the Nick Senam story. So if you want to just...
Let's go.
As a dad, I kind of... A lot of my traits, a lot of my beliefs, you know, a lot of the way I am as a dad was shaped through my upbringing. So I like to start there. So just want to take me through your upbringing, and just tell everyone kind of a little bit about your journey.
For sure, 100%. Some people that are listening to this probably already know this story, but I was brought up in a broken home. It's not as intense as it sounds, but there was experiences that I went through, especially with my father, that really shaped me to who I am, and really encouraged me to find the person that I want to be. And this is not coming from I'm not going to kind of dodge around things. My dad was an abuser. He was very intimidating, very alpha, and I also got to put this out there as well. There's a lot of things that he did do really, really well for me. There's a lot of things that I'm very grateful for that he did, and I understand his situation and the reasons why he did the things that he did. So what I mean by the things that he did, he used a lot of fear in my life to control me and the people around. He definitely, when I was younger, he hit me, physical violence, mental violence, I would say, mental abuse, through things that I understand now, but at the time I didn't understand, of course. And kind of just to summarize everything in a way that, instead of getting into stories of what happened and all this kind of stuff and how it kind of shaped me where I am, and it was a massive realization, is when I was about 19, 20, I was going through a lot of, I was very anxious, I was very lost as a human being, and I started to seek inside myself to find who I was as a person. And it wasn't until I was about 23, I say 23, that I actually stopped contact with my father. But in the early years of being a 20-year-old, I was seeking inside myself, okay, what's going on? Why am I so fearful of older guys? Why am I so fearful to go after the things that I want to go after? And all that. It all contributed to my upbringing as with my father talking down to me, saying that I wasn't good enough as a person, to like the little things that he wasn't directly going like, yo, you're a piece of shit of a human, but it was things like disencouraging me when I was like, say for instance, when I was in year 6, I wanted to play a song on a guitar. I've never really played guitar much, and sing a song, and I was so ballsy to kind of do that. But I remember sitting at the dinner table, and this is what's so crazy about moments in kids' lives. For anyone that is a father, you got to be careful of this, because it can be ingrained in your head for the rest of your life. And I remember we were sitting there at the dinner table, very vivid, exactly where I was. I remember it was an afternoon. It was like daylight savings. I remember it all. and he was like, oh, don't do that, you'd be silly, you make a fool of yourself and all this kind of stuff, and that really disencouraged me, and I didn't do it, and and then like I was always a very like always wanted to get outside the shell, get outside the box, and kind of do weird stuff and express myself, but I was always kind of told, no, don't do that, you're not good enough. So then it led me to when I was older to kind of search myself, and came to the realization it was a lot to do with my father. And there's one thing I'll leave here as well is it's how your perception can be warped as a child to where you are as an adult. For a very long time, until I started seeking the reason why I was so anxious, is that I saw my father as a strong human being, as an alpha dog. Like, he was taking care of the family. I wanted to work as hard as him, and don't get me wrong, he worked hard, and I appreciate that work ethic, but I was seeing it from the wrong angle. I was intimidated of him. So then I became, if I wanted to become strong in life, or if I wanted to work hard or anything like that, I would be nervous that I would be intimidating for other people. Especially when I was showing up for people and like I just genuinely just want to be there for people. And for a very long time, I thought I was actually insecure that other people thought I was intimidating because of that. And I actually found out that I was just intimidating my father because he was an aggressor. He was intimidating. Like, he was just an angry person. So yeah, it was crazy how when that pin dropped, it made a lot of sense, and it just kind of, over the couple of years, it's just all my anxiety and my worries of being insecure has just kind of vanished, which is fantastic. So yeah,
a lot there, and there's a couple of things that stuck out, and I want to unpack or talk about a couple of them. You said your dad did a lot of, let's say, bad things and a lot of good things. So was it a case for you, not just as a dad, but when you kind of got to that moment in your 20s of realising, was it just a case of, I'll recognise all of those bad things, but also recognise the good things, take the good and leave the bad?
Yeah, look, I definitely don't hate my father. I wish things were different, I really do, but the thing is, I always, even now, I haven't spoken to him in 2 years. I've probably seen him once, right? And I still sometimes hope to this day that I could reconnect with him and actually have a conversation with him, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen, because I've tried to make the effort multiple times, and I'm a strong believer, no matter who or what, even if it's your mum, dad, grandma, partner, friend, if they aren't contributing to your life in a positive way, or just contributing to your life, if that's overpoweringly negative, why do you want them in your life? It becomes a cancer, and it will chew you up, and it will fucking destroy you as a human. So the thing that I had to really realise is that I don't hate my father. I had to come to the realisation of why he was doing the things that he was doing from his perspective, not going like, oh, fuck my dad, he's a piece of shit because he did this, this and this, to, okay, why did he do this? Why did he act this way? And it's a clear example of it's how he was raised. It's just plain and simple like that, and I just became peace with that, and understanding that, that is the way, my father was brought up, and that's the way he kind of knows best. I know he did his best. I know he did his best to parent me, and as I said, he did a lot of good things for me, but the thing is, it's not always about just doing what I mean by good things is getting the opportunity to travel around the world. He showed me he showed me work ethic, which is fantastic. You work for something, you get something. And there's a couple of things there as well that kind of stand out. But what overweighs all of that is that negative shit that just happened.
Yeah.
That's what sticks in my head. And look, things happen. People get frustrated. Totally understand that. totally get that, and it's going to happen. You're never always going to be a positive person and positive parent to your kid. There's going to be some shit that your kid does, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know? But we also have that choice to react. You know, just like in anything that you do in life, is you have that choice to react appropriately, because you are, you know, you do have that choice. You have that choice to, like, instead of being reactive, you know, be whatever, proactive.
Respond.
Respond,
So
yeah.
responding versus reacting.
Exactly right.
That one, yeah. It makes me think, because there's been some moments, especially not just you know, in the past with Betty, so my daughter, but even recently, where, you know, I'm reacting like a 4-year-old would react. Like, we had a standoff in the car a couple of weeks ago because she wouldn't do something. So
Yeah.
I just sat in the car for half an hour like
Yeah.
a bloody 4-year-old
Yeah.
and acted like a 4-year-old and
Yeah.
wouldn't talk to her because of it. And then
Yeah.
you get pulled into that moment, and
You do.
and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's also, and that kind of leads me into my next question, and what you said earlier about how powerful moments are as kids. So, you know, you were, you know, learning the guitar, wanting to play something on the guitar, and you just got such a negative response from your dad. Is that something that you're extremely conscious of now as a father?
I wouldn't say I'm extremely conscious of it, but I just live, without sounding too cliche, I just live in the moment that if I can make my daughter smile more than she cries, that's me. I'm done. Like, you know what I mean? I don't care whether that's just, you know, just tickling her or telling her a funny joke or anything like that. But if that can be my goal with Elliot, I feel like I've wanted a dad. One as a dad. So I feel like if I'm living like that, I don't have to really worry about those moments, because we're going to have those moments and they're just going to organically happen. But yeah, I guess that's the response to that.
Well, it's a powerful way to look at it, right? So I overthink it.
Yeah.
So instead of being present in the moment with Betty, I think of, is this the right thing to say, or is this the right way to respond? And it's such a powerful way to look at it. We're going to have those moments where she's going to cry and be upset, and we're going to yell and kind of scream at each other. But I can outweigh those moments with the positive and happy ones,
100%.
and recognise that. And the reality is, right, we can't have good without evil. So they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's just which one are you going to which one do you want more of, and looking at it that way. So that's actually a powerful way to look at it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and that's the thing. Like, we've had these conversations before outside of just being parents, but we tend to overcomplicate a lot of things, especially when it comes to parenting. Look, this is no kind of flex on me, or I've just got a very supportive wife as well, and I think that helps a lot. And there's definitely topics that we can go into about, you know, relationships and stuff like that. But parenting, to me, whether it's because I'm just, you know, it's what I always wanted to do, but it comes easy because I understand that Elliot, yes, I am there to parent her, but I do not control her life. And what I mean by that is, especially when she starts getting older, of course I'm going to present her with, you know, opportunities, but if she doesn't want to play soccer at age 6, I'm not going to be like, no, you have to play this. Or, I mean, encourage her to eat healthier foods, but you have to be the inspirer to your kids by not controlling them, but by showing, you know, guiding them to the best you possibly can. Because at the end of the day, as soon as they start going to high school, as soon as they start going to school, you have no control over their influence when they go to school. And this is so evident with especially my younger brother and sister, kids that come into the shop. Parents try and control way too much of their kids' actions and activities, and it destroys the kids. as soon as I start asking the kid about what they love, they light up like a friggin' light bulb. They do, and 100%, and that's what needs to be fostered. So when I totally understand that, so that's one thing that even more so about moments, that's what I put more emphasis on is not controlling Elliot. And it's a strange one now, she's just over 1, so I kind of have to help her with, like, she's walking around. There's things that she's incapable of doing that I kind of have to help her and be there for her. But that's all part of the time. But if she falls over, Hannah and I know that if she falls over, we're not going to go there and just be like, oh baby, it's okay. Like, if she's like, she fell over the other day and she busted her mouth open and it was bleeding, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be there for her then. But encouraging her to be like, to pick herself up straight up after that. She didn't cry much after that because we went straight to the mirror. What I love to do is I like to go, weirdly enough, I don't know where I got this habit from, but when she starts to cry, I go to the mirror and I'm like, who's crying, and instantly she stops. She starts smiling at herself. I don't know where I've got that habit or why, and I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm leaning to feel like it's good because philosophically I would like to believe that you see yourself crying and you can really convince yourself, no, why am I crying? Like, I can be happy, especially in shit situations. So I don't know why I got that, but yeah, that's just my philosophy on parenting. And if people are like, yo, I respect that. It's a practice thing. It definitely takes practice, of course, and it's going to test me, especially when Elliot's 4, 5, 6, 7 starts talking back to me and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. What's your views on that?
I think it's again another useful, or it's another great philosophy. It's another great philosophy that, and you hear about it, right? We cotton wool our kids a lot, and and it's not about casting judgment on other parents if they do it differently. It's about recognising that ultimately you're the only one that's going to know, and you, to an extent, you don't even know if it's right or wrong, but what's right in that moment. So if that in that moment is something that is good for you and is good for Elliot, then who am I to say that it's the wrong thing to do?
Exactly.
Who am I to say that, oh no, you should pick him up straight away if they're, because different things, right? Different situations. If they're falling over and just crying versus if they're falling over and they're bleeding, there's going to be two different
100%.
Ways to respond to that. And I think trust yourself that you're going to respond appropriate.
Yeah.
And there is no right or wrong. There's just a way to respond.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a great philosophy who knows? Looking in the mirror might be the world's worst thing for the kid, but
who knows? Who knows? But like, for me, that feels right in my heart. It feels right in my gut. But history tells, especially when it comes to cuddling, if that's the right word, children, especially when they fall and stuff like that, and always just kind of picking them up, they're going to start relying on that, and they're going to start abusing that in a way that they'll do it on purpose. It's so evident. There's so much evidence out there. Prove me wrong. Like, I've seen it so many times. I see it in the barbershop here many, many times. 16, 17-year-old kids come in with their mum. I'm like, hey man, what kind of haircut you want? Straight looking to the mum. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying like, the kid's this or that. But there's got to be something where it's like, you're 16, 17, about to come into 18, 19, come, out in this world, leave school. When mum's not around, what are you going to do? Like, you just got to crumble up and go into a ball and look, I'm just putting a speculation out. Just think of this. When things like that happen, when they get cuddled so much, they're going to start looking for things. They're going to start looking to be fit into places, and maybe that's a direction for people to go into drugs and alcohol or whatever it is, because they've been cuddled so much that they need to be filled when they're not around their mum anymore, or their dad, or whatever it is, their parent. I don't know. I just had that thought, and I felt like I could share that. So if anyone's kind of thinking that, maybe
No, it's again, it's another great thing, right? Because we constantly look externally for validation and as parents, if you're looking at what that other parent is doing, it's not necessarily what's right for you and your family dynamic and your child. So we just and all you're really saying is just trust yourself and trust who you are, and let yourself make a right or wrong decision.
Exactly right.
Let yourself make a decision.
Yeah.
Don't rely on other people to make that decision.
There's no instruction manual to become a parent. There's none at all, and it's, especially when you leave, like especially in the early days, like have a baby and then off you go, figure it out. Like there's guides of people what they've done, but that's their experience.
Yeah.
Even experts, it's their experience. Unless it's backed with some real kind of evidence and hard evidence, every situation's so different. Because every parent has been parented differently, and their parents been parented differently, and it just goes on and goes on and goes on and goes on.
Yeah.
So I think like having sympathy for people, having empathy for people that are just trying to be parents, they're trying to be good parents from what you can see, trying to give their children more smiles and cries, more experiences and opportunities. Because that's really all it is. You just present your child with all these opportunities and experiences, and if they like to stick on one and just get that out of life, like why do you want more than that? Why do you need your kids to be, unless they want to, why do you need your kids to be a lawyer or a doctor or a high paying job for the reason of just having a high paying job? Like wouldn't you care for your kid just to be freaking happy and no matter what kind of money or stuff that they have in their lives, like if they want to achieve those things, you want your best for your kids, but for me, best for my child is, as long as she's happy. And I don't mean that in a really cliche way, but I generally mean that. If she's making, $800 a week doing the thing that she loves, what she's doing, she can, and I'm sure she will figure it out. That's cool, whatever.
It's such a great outlook, mate. And I think we place too much emphasis on forcing them into something, or I don't want to use forcing, but putting them on a path that they necessarily don't want to be on, and not nurturing. And it's funny, right? Because you can look back and go, oh well, you're not even having a go with your kid. You're not. How are they going to do anything if you're not going to put them on one path? They don't know any better. But it's actually not.
But they do.
It's actually not putting trust in the child, or at that point the young adult, that they're going to know what's right for them.
Exactly right. And I think like another thing that just pops into my head there is, especially when Elliot was just about to be born and I was speaking to Hannah and I said, look, I am never going to sacrifice the things that I want to do in my life just because Elliot controls our life. Of course, there's going to be times when we need to do that. Totally understand that. But what I mean by that is, to this day, I am living every single moment the way I want to live it, with the business that I have, the choices that I make. And through that, I'm doing it because I love what I do. So that I feel should be enough influence to my child to be like, I'm living my true self, you can too. That's a path. Of course, I feel like that's a path to just living your true self, like without getting too philosophical and spiritual with it all. It just, that is the path, and to add on to that, you just show them experiences. You go through, like, if they want to play sports like netball, soccer, swimming, here, over there, and if you're like, oh Dad, I really love this, or Dad, I really love this, let them go for a little bit, and if they get over it, who cares? Move on, do something else. Like, what is the harm of having a crack at little things here and there? Because at the end of the day, like, they can pick it up and have it for the rest of their life. And one thing that we're like kind of nourishing a little bit is, I don't know, it could be every baby, I don't know. Elliot loves books. It just loves going through books and stuff like that. She even like picks up books and grabs them to us, and she kind of sits next to us and we read them a little bit. So we're going to kind of practice, but also just kind of nourish that a little bit. So for Christmas, she's going to get some books.
Yeah.
You know, she might get over them in a year, and we'll be like, fuck, whatever, we'll move on.
Yeah.
We're not going to be like, no, you have to read books because that's what you did when you were 1. Like for me, I'm like, yo, if I'm a barber now, but in 2 years I want to become a freaking dentist, I'll do that. Like, why do we have to be stuck and bounded by doing the one thing for the rest of our lives? And that within itself should be that influence that you have in that child to just experience everything out of life.
Yeah. I got tingles through that because it reminds me of a quote, and I've flogged this to death recently, but it sticks so true to what we're talking about. So the quote is, and it's a Carl Jung quote, the greatest burden a child will carry is that of the unlived life of its parent. So if you don't go and do what you're supposed to do, or what, I shouldn't say what's supposed to do, but you want to do, what's the child going to think?
Exactly.
Versus if you go out and do what you want to do, because what happens, we tend to then live vicariously through the child. We push them down the path that we wanted to go out of our own fear because we never went down that path.
Yeah.
So we talked about Hannah and Elliot, but not formally kind of introduced them. So I guess I first met you guys after a Bridge the Gap run. We actually had the run together, and then at the end we went out for coffee, and Hannah and Elliot were there, and I just noticed straight away how passionate you were about your family. So you just want to talk about them for a little bit?
For sure. And not to be totally rude, but we'll finish on this one, and we'll do a part 2 for sure. Keep that suspense. Dan knows that we're working on something, and Jacob just turned up, so I'm going to go over there just quickly to that thing that we need to do. But I'll finish on that. Finish on Elliot and Hannah, and then of course we can dive into other topics after, because there's a lot to unpack, and we can freaking talk for 3 hours, but we don't want to bore these people with a million different topics, of course, unless you have 6 hours free. We talk about shit. So Hannah and Elliot, how passionate I am about it. Sorry, that question. Look, they're my whole life. Like, everything is just so okay. I am so lucky to have the most supporting wife in the world. And if she was hearing this right now, she'd be like, you're a dickhead, this kind of shit. That's the word. It's just so funny. Our relationship just keeps getting better and better, and as a little bit of a backstory, Hannah and I have actually known each other since we were 10. We dated when we were 18. I broke her heart 3 months into that relationship. Arsehole I am. 2 years later, we got back together, got married. 2 years later, had a kid. Here we are. So Hannah and I are deeply in love. We're progressively always just improving the relationship and marriage. And one other philosophy that I believe, and 100%, and it's not even coming from me, it's coming from someone else that I really respect, is that a child emphasizes the relationship. So what I mean that, let me rephrase that. A child, as soon as you bring a child into a relationship, it amplifies it. So if you got a negative relationship in the start, it's going to amplify the shit out of that. If you have a positive one, prime example is Hannah and I, it just amplifies it every single day. We love each other more, we have more fun times together, sex is better. It's crazy, man. Like, everything is just so much more because of this child. And then I think the next conversation we have is relationships, because I think that is a massive, massive contributor to parenting a child. Because you can be an individual parent, a dad, especially if this is dad's topic, but if you're not supporting your wife or your partner that you had the child with, especially through birthing and especially through just times of need, especially the first year, it could really, really crush your relationship.
How can we end on that, Nick? How? You've just dropped a big bombshell, and I just don't want to end on this now.
No, we'll leave it on a high. We'll leave it on a high for sure.
That is, yeah, wow. It amplifies it. It does. Having a child amplifies a relationship.
Massively.
So true.
Massively.
So true. I know you're extremely busy. Thank you very much for
No,
your
that's all
time,
right.
and I love that this has now become a part 2.
Part 2 for sure, and then part 3, part 4, part 5.
Endless. It'll end up as a Joe Rogan.
It will, yeah, definitely, 100%. And then we'll get 100 mil to go on Spotify. Like, comment, subscribe. Nah. Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me on, man. Like, I really do mean that I back this cause. I wish, at the moment, of course, working on a new project, had more time, but in the new year, we're definitely going to be amping this up a lot more.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.